Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation, brought to you by the great folks at Crown Royal. Generosity lives in the small things. It doesn't need money or an audience or even acknowledgement. It just needs a few good people. Crown Royal, Crown, everything. My name is Harman Dahl. With me, David Quadrelli, Grady Sass, the man at the controls, technical producer at the iconic Sheraton Wall Center.
Oh,
did I nail that or what?
was there any doubt? Was there ever any doubt that you would absolutely crush that? You did phenomenal. You did a great job.
You know what? My first podcast when I was 18 or 19 years old, it used to be called Game Theory. That probably prepped me for this moment because I remember I had to record a mid-roll ad.
Oh.
And I think I spent an hour and at least 8 or 9 takes trying to nail it down. So all that practice was to prepare me for this moment.
It paid off. It paid off because, like I said, you absolutely crushed that right off the top. I'm very proud of you. I threw the idea to you like 5 minutes before the show. I just said, hey, do you want to do an ad read? Do you want to do the intro? Because I do all the ad reads on the show. But, you know, that's an easier one for Crown Royal. Our friends over at Crown Royal, you crushed it. You did awesome.
I think your hosting gig is in jeopardy there.
I know. I was just gonna say, I'm like, this is like watching artificial intelligence taking your job. This is like me watching superior intelligence take my job.
No.
Anyways, moving right past that, the Vegas Golden Knights are in town to take on the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Tell your boy Thomas Drance that it's first in the Pacific. He should know that because I don't think he does.
Yeah, that's the hill he's dying on. I mean, he's right in the sense that by points percentage, it's not really a battle for first in the Pacific because the Canucks have played extra games, but that's not the hill I would die on.
Yeah, like, shut up, nerd. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I come down.
I wouldn't say that. Don't say that about my boy Drance.
That's what people in the chat say about us. But come on, okay, he is correct. This is what I'll say about it. He is correct that it is points percentage, but he's flat out incorrect that it's not for first in the Pacific. Whoever wins this game will be at first place in the Pacific when you look at the NHL standings. If you go sort it by points percentage, which sure, that's probably the best way to evaluate where everything's at right now. LA's still got to win those games. LA's still got to go out and win those games to get to first in the Pacific. And the Canucks, if they're there, it means they've won those games. That's all I'll say.
Either way, it's going to be a really fun matchup. I feel like for a long time with this start, Canucks fans have been looking at it as this is a great start, but we'd love to see our team tested against the best competition in the NHL. Colorado was sort of seen as a measuring stick game. Vegas will be seen as one as well. Golden Knights as well. This is a good time to be catching them. They've been losing quite a few games over the last 8 games or so. So you're not catching them at a point where they're firing on all cylinders. They've been scuffling. Actually, probably the record in recent times has been a little bit worse than the Canucks, who haven't been on the best footing either. So ideal time to catch them. One thing I will say is regardless of the outcome, whether the Canucks win or whether they lose, the takes are going to be hilarious to see the Canucks win.
Oh, yeah.
The overreaction, I'm really looking forward to seeing it because either way, it's going to be an overreaction. If they lose, it's going to feel like the end of the world based off the reactions you're going to see on Canucks Twitter. And if they win, people are going to be planning the parade.
Oh, for sure. Undoubtedly. And I liked Rick Tocchet's answer about this after the morning skate about how, yes, this game can be a measuring stick, but also it doesn't really matter if they win 5-0 or lose 5-0. It's all about kind of what happens in the long term with this team. And yes, this game will be a measuring stick, but also the Canucks are right there as well. They need to show that they can play against a team like this, but at the same time, don't let it affect your takes too much.
Yeah, look, have fun. It's a big stakes game. It's entertaining. Absolutely, tonight you're gonna ride the highs and lows, and you're gonna really badly want them to be Vegas. Embrace those emotions, but don't let it cloud your big picture view of what this team is or isn't. Because in today's NHL, any team can beat any team on a given night. I mean, we just saw Vancouver lose to San Jose. Vegas has lost to some subpar opponents as well recently. So
it's just funny because when there's games like those San Jose ones, everyone says, well, every team has nights like that. Good teams still lose to teams like that once in a while. It happens. But when you beat Vegas or you lose to Vegas, then it's the end all be all. Like that game, that's the one that matters. Although I will say, some people have pointed out as well that, when it comes to beating the premier opponents, the Canucks haven't had to do it so much just yet in the season. They haven't had to beat those top teams. They've lost to Colorado, Toronto, those top teams. They beat Dallas.
And New York. Actually, no,
they
that was
lost
a
New York.
loss. My
Yeah.
bad. But
But
that was
they
a
were
really
right
good
there.
performance.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
what I meant. Like in my head, see, this is why so
totally.
often I'm like process over results. And the way I looked at that game was they outplayed the Rangers.
Yep.
To me, they deserve to win, especially given
The
it was
power
the
plays
second
played a
leg.
huge role in that game.
Kuzmenko Shesterkin robbing Kuzmenko in the overtime.
The Pettersson tripping call that got missed. Plus, it was the Canucks' I think it was the second leg of back-to-back because they'd played St. Louis the night before. Either way, I just remembered that's a really good showing against the top team, even though they didn't get the extra point.
Yeah, and even the Toronto game, similar, right? Like we like the process in that Toronto game. So just something I'm pointing out that, they haven't had the results yet against those top teams. So I'm sure some fans out there would love to see them actually get a result against the top team. Get your anyone else's in early today, folks. We're going to be joined at 2:15 by Abbotsford Canucks forward Aidan McDonough, friend of the show. He's been on the show quite a few times. He will be joining us at 2:15. We're going to get into a lot. Everybody on Abbotsford's growing a cookie duster, so I'm curious to see what his looks like because he was notably left out of the promotional tweet that the Abbotsford Canucks posted. I don't know if he grew a mustache for Movember, I should say. We will see when he joins us in a matter of moments. But first, we want to get to anyone else very early in the show because as anticipated, and we've talked about on recent shows, we're going to be getting to Patrik Allvin's trade record. We've all done it. The three of us, and we haven't shared each other's answers. We're going to look at the wins, losses when it comes to trading for Patrik Allvin and the Vancouver Canucks since him and Jim Rutherford have been at the helm. But before that, it's time for anyone else, presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. It's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. That's right. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter code NATION25. That's all capital letters, NATION, the numbers 25. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms do apply. Anyone else from Sam Ross? How's Bert? Bert is doing fantastic. He's got a little pajama shirt that he likes to wear now. He's doing great. He's grown up right before my eyes. He's going to be 11 months in 6 days. So yeah, he's grown up.
By the way, I just have to say, since I did an ad read, now I'm paying more attention to how you've done yours. You sounded like Eminem when he's going psycho mode, just rapping.
Thank you.
I was like, in those commercials when they're like promoting some health pill or product, and then in the final 15 seconds, it's just rattling off
all the horrible things that could happen,
potential side effects. It was like that, and I was like, that's pretty clean, pretty impressive.
Yeah, this product may cause internal bleeding, and then they just go off. I've always wondered, and I feel like there must be a law. I don't know, maybe there's not a law against it, but I always wondered if they speed those up in like post-production, or if those people are actually speaking that fast on the advertisement. Because I wonder if I could. Do you know what I mean? I wonder what my top speed is. Let's find out. Anyone else interested in what my top speed is? Because I am. Here we go. Let's do this one. It's time for anyone else, presented by DoorDash. So listeners a chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. And it's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more. That's right. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter code NATION25. Offer valid in cash, so change terms apply.
Holy crap. That was actually like when Eminem raps and you're like, you can barely tell what he's saying, but you know that he's actually nailing it.
Thank you.
I didn't know you had that type of range.
I didn't either. I just kind of went with it.
Wow, I was feeling good about my intro and ad read off the top.
I got my job back.
I got my job back.
Okay, now we got some actual anyone else's in here. This one from Jesse C. Vegas style of play versus Colorado. Which matchup is better for the Vancouver Canucks?
That's a really good question. I would say I don't think there's one that stands out in terms of being more favorable. I would say Vegas and how stingy they are defensively is not good for the Canucks because the Canucks, especially 5-on-5, tend to struggle, especially recently, I think, generating those grade A quality chances. And Vegas, especially when they have their healthy blue line, which they don't quite have, because Shea Theodore, for example, is injured. They clog the middle so well. They have a lot of size in their blue line. And we even saw in the playoffs how difficult it was for teams to get into the slot. So that's a concern I have against Vegas, which, I mean, Colorado defends pretty well too, but I don't think they stuff the middle quite as well as Vegas does. But the advantage Colorado has is they have game-breaking speed that I don't think Vegas has. The way McKinnon and Rantanen can take a game over, I just don't see that, especially when Colorado's man advantage takes the ice and you have Makar as well. They have game breakers that Vegas doesn't. So yeah, that would be my take. Colorado has more potent offensive game breakers, but Vegas defends a slot a lot better. So it's kind of like pick your poison. I don't think one stands out to me in terms of being a lot more favorable for the Canucks.
Yeah, I'd be interested which team creates better off the rush, and then look at how the Canucks kind of defend against all of those offensive tactics. But I think you summed it up pretty well right there. This one from Corey Anderson. If Kuzmenko continues to struggle under Tocchet, does this management group trade him to free up space and go after a familiar face in the offseason in Gensel? This is something that Dollywall started to talk about on Donnie and Dolly over at Czech TV. The idea that if this relationship between Rick Tocchet and Andrei Kuzmenko doesn't improve, we've already seen Dan Milstein, tweet out that Nikita Zadorov needs to get out of Calgary because he's not happy with his ice time. Kuzmenko seems like he's happy in Vancouver, and it doesn't seem like at any point in this saga yet that there's been a chapter where Kuzmenko comes out and says, I don't know why I'm sitting. Like, I don't know why I'm sitting. I don't understand. I don't like this type thing. Like, I'm sure he doesn't like it. And I think Tocchet's even said that, yeah, he doesn't like being sat out, but it's not like he's coming in. And we had this conversation in the office the other day about, like, it's not like Kuzmenko's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm playing so well defensively. Like, I'm excelling at that area of the game. I think you're wrong. That's not what's happening here. Kuzmenko seems to have a pretty good handle on why Tocchet isn't playing him. I just wonder how long it can go on. I wonder if the Canucks put him on PP2 or PP1 tonight if Kuzmenko gets back there. Do you think he's going to be back in place of Filip Hronek?
That's a good question. The thing is, watching PP1 the other night, I don't think you could point to, well, if you had Kuzmenko on that unit instead of Hronek, that it would have performed that much better. I just felt like the unit can get set up. I probably would have felt, okay, maybe you want to replace Hronek with Kuzmenko if the unit looks stagnant once set up, or if Hronek was spamming too many low percentage shots through traffic. But I didn't think Hronek was part of the first unit looking average against Anaheim. But we'll see, because you also want to give Kuzmenko an opportunity to get going, and perhaps the power play can be that. If it was me, I would still have Hronek on PP1 to start the game against Vegas, and then if you have, let's say, a power play or two where the first unit really struggles and you're thinking, okay, they could maybe use a spark, then you make the in-game adjustment. But I'm not sure if I'd change it up this quickly before the game.
Anyone else interested to see how Nils Höglander continues to progress under Rick Tocchet? I don't have the clip handy, but at morning skate today, Tocchet spoke about how he's starting to notice that Nils Höglander, when he gets into the zone, he starts to make the same mistakes that he's made that have held him out of the lineup, have, made him a healthy scratch, have made him play lower in the lineup. He starts to make those mistakes, and then it starts to click. Like, Tocchet is seeing it start to click. And now he's saying the next step for him is for it to become habitual, that he just starts to do the right plays every time without having to start the wrong way, correct himself, and then still make the right play, but, get back into the right area of the ice. I'm talking about the defensive zone, I should say. That was what Tocchet was speaking about this morning. I found that really interesting because it came from our pal Chris Faber, who asked the question about Höglander's progression, and that was the next step that Tocchet said he needs to take. Is, I noticed it last game, he said, that he's made that adjustment. He's starting to see where he's making the mistakes, and you just hope with a guy who's producing offensively the way Höglander is, the way we know he can, that he does start to take that step, because that's what's going to allow him to be a middle six winger, maybe even a top six winger on this team long term.
Yeah, and I think there's already been a significant improvement in that area. I mean, you still see the occasional turnover here or there, but The defensive and puck management lapses aren't nearly as egregious as they were last season. And when you combine it with how aggressive and direct he's been taking the puck to the net, the speed that he's playing with, the confidence, he's looking to make plays on the middle, towards the middle of the ice. He's not settling on the perimeter, which I really admire about a player that isn't the biggest guy.
Yep.
It's a sustainable way of creating offense as opposed to you're looking to make high skill plays from the perimeter. You need to execute these difficult east-west passes to be effective. No, his game is direct. It's fast. It's tenacious. And when he doesn't have the puck, he is finding ways to get open in the inner slot or around the net to try and find tips and deflections, which I've been impressed with his hand-eye coordination as well. So I've been stoked to see his progress, and I hope that he can continue to sort of earn his trust and be somebody that isn't just a bottom six fixture, but when you're looking to give the top six a spark, like when Anthony Beauvillier, for instance, before he got traded, got a shot up the lineup, that Höglander can be that guy.
Okay, Grady hasn't anyone else for us before we get to Aidan McDonough here. It's specific with the Vegas-Vancouver matchup that we're going to see tonight in the goal crease, because that's fitting for Grady. So Grady, what did you have for us here?
It's Kevin Woodley's analytics from ClearSight looking at the top goals saved above expected numbers. And the first and second guys leading those statistics are Thatcher Demko and Aidan Hill, which will all but likely be the starting goaltending matchup tonight. So not saying to bet the under, but we could see a battle of two great goaltenders going toe-to-toe. And perhaps down the line in 2025 at the next international World Cup of Hockey or whatever they want to brand it, does Aidan Hill perhaps get into Team Canada's crease? We all know that there's a lack of talent in the goaltending depths in Canada here, and Thatcher Demko is going to be right there with, Jake Ottinger, Connor Hellebuck,
yep.
John Gibson. So, yeah, interesting tweet pointed out by Woodley here. 15.11 goals saved above expected.
Yeah, Thatcher Demko has been dynamite. On top of Aidan Hill, go look at his trade history. It's really interesting. Like, you look at what he was traded for, and you have to think all those teams are just like, damn it, this guy, we traded this guy for what? What did we give up for this guy? Anyways, let's bring him in. Aidan McDonough from the Abbotsford Canucks, who joins us now. We have Aidan? Oh. We'll get him in a sec. There he is. Aidan, you got the cookie duster going. Who's got the best mustache on the team?
I mean, mine's probably the darkest, probably the thickest. I don't know. We got a lot of good guys. Willandon's got a good one. John Stevens has a nice thick one. Chase Waters can get the handlebars going. So we got some good mustaches.
Did I see correctly that you were held out of the promotional tweet for Movember from the Abbotsford Canucks? Like, did they not put you in there? Because I was saying at the top of the show, I was curious if you even grew a mustache for Movember because they chose not to put you in it.
Yeah, I was held out. I missed the photo op, but they threw me in a story after the fact, so
Good.
I didn't get in there. But I was kind of like a pity invite, but I got in there.
Aidan, I wanted to ask you. It's obviously been last several months a whirlwind for you, signing with the Canucks, getting your cameo with the team down the stretch. Going back to last season when you had your 6 games with the big club, what was your welcome to the NHL moment where you're on the ice or maybe even off the ice and you're thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm in the NHL?
I mean, I think off the ice would probably be I first landed in Arizona and I met some of the guys at like a optional workout in the hotel, and then a few of them asked me to go to dinner. So I went to dinner with like 5 or 6 of the older guys. And that was pretty surreal, just kind of hopping off the plane and getting dinner with some of those guys. Really nice of them to treat me like that and, be welcoming and, ask me a bunch of questions at dinner and get to know them. So that was pretty special. That was probably like oh, wow, like this is, it was obviously a really nice restaurant somewhere that I normally probably wouldn't be eating in college. And then on the ice, probably playing Calgary at home, just a big team, physical, like some big guys, Zadorov, Tanev, like some big guys that I was kind of like, okay, this is definitely a step up from what I'm used to.
Aidan, from the playing like Friday, Saturday, generally in the NCAA, what's the adjustment been like to the everyday grind in professional hockey?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely a lot different. I think you kind of have to be a bit more methodical on how you go about things. I think in college you can get away with, maybe, Monday, Tuesday, you're kind of, you're pushing yourself every day. I think I learned that as I got older and kind of had my routine down. And then, okay, maybe Wednesday and Thursday, you kind of dial it in and tighten it up and get thinking about that game Friday. But here, we had a really busy October. I think 11 games in, October, 12 maybe. So you kind of have to be on top of it every single day. And you have to prepare your body a lot better. You have to be sharp every day because, especially myself, I'm new. I'm improving myself every day, and I can't afford to have, a day where I don't have my foot on the gas pedal and I'm kind of just going through the motion. So I think it's more about just being a pro every single day and learning how to take care of your body. Because I think, and when you do have time, to make sure you're doing the right things away from the rink, because you have to make sure you take care of that time away from the rink. And when you don't play as much, make sure you're feeling fresh, because you could go through a stretch of a few weeks where you're playing 6-7 games.
We know you have a great release on your shot. We know you have great offensive instincts in terms of getting open in and around the slot. But adjusting to the professional game, we know everybody talks about how much faster it is, how much bigger your opponents are. Is there one or two areas in specific that you're looking at your own game? And of course, the steep adjustment from NCAA to pro, and looking at it and going, this is sort of what I need to hone in on to reach the next level, whether it's something as specific as wall work or your acceleration or how quickly you make decisions with the puck. I'm curious what you would identify from your own game in terms of how you're going to take the next step.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think you come into, or at least for me, I came into professional hockey thinking that you know a lot about the game, and you had success at the earlier level. So when you get here, you're just going to be able to kind of do the same things that you've been doing, and it's largely different. I think there's a lot of things like the wall work, the D zone structure, being hard on battles, being better below the dots in the offensive zone, making sure pucks get behind their defense and get in. I think there's pros and cons to staying for 4 years and developing, and I wouldn't change it, but I think I could have developed some. I had some leash with my coach in terms of if I turn a puck over, or if I kind of don't back check as hard, or maybe don't sprint out of the zone, then I'm probably still going to go over the boards that next shift, and nothing's really going to happen because I could produce offensively. But here it's a lot harder to produce offense 5-on-5, and you have to do those little things day in and day out to afford yourself those opportunities offensively. I think the biggest thing that I came in to pro as a goal scorer, and I still want to score as many goals as I can, but I think it came a lot easier in terms of I wouldn't have to move my feet as much, and you get more chances to score. I have a good shot and I could score from the top of the circles, but here it's a lot harder to score from the top of the circles. A lot of good goalies, a lot of good defensive teams. There's not many breakdowns. There's not many opportunities where the other player is going to make a mistake and you're going to be able to walk right in and rip one. And if you do, the goalie's probably going to make a save. So you have to, create offense the hard way. You're going to have to go to the net strong, put your stick on the ice, get it off the cycle, drive it to the net, beat your check. So there's a lot of things I think that I've had to, adjust to, but I think it's helping me. I think I'm almost relearning how to play the game at a professional level, and I think that's going to help me, for success moving forward.
How much easier is it to relearn the game when the guys you're learning for are some Hall of Famers in the Sedin Twins and the other staff out there in Abbotsford? What's that process been like for you working with them?
It's been amazing, honestly. It's been super helpful. I think last year in the spring, the coaching staff in Vancouver did an unbelievable job of kind of giving me a quick crash course, but it's hard to do so much, when I'm only there for a certain amount of time. But I think now I've really been able to, do a lot more video with the coaching staff in Abbotsford, talk to the Sedins a lot more, do a lot of extra work after practice. And they've been amazing to learn from. They've all been super helpful, and been kind of communicating to me about things that, I can do better, and things that I've done well. But it's kind of like a collective unit here. I think everyone in Abbotsford is rooting for each other. Like we first off, obviously want to for the Canucks to have success. We want, our team to have success, and we want the guys on our team that go up there to have success. And I think it's kind of been a, by committee. I think everyone's been trying to pull on the same rope in terms of developing, and the coaching staff's great because they know, it's not like, yeah, I need to be at a certain level by this time, or their job is, not sufficient, or if I don't get to this pace or this points or whatever. It's none of that. It's every day we're going to come in, we're going to work hard. We have a great group of guys, and we're going to get better and chip away. And everybody's path's a little bit different.
We wanted to throw a few fun ones at you before we let you go. For starters, if you had to pick one teammate in Abbotsford that you sort of look at and that you're most confident will develop into a future NHL player, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one because there's a lot.
You said it was going to be fun.
Okay, you can pick more than one, but
yeah, pick a couple.
pick a couple.
Yeah, I mean, that's there is a lot of players. I think on the defensive side, I think Akito and McWard are both in my shoes, where they're both first year and they've handled it really well. McWard skates so well backwards. I've never seen a guy skate as well backwards with the puck on his stick. And Akito's is so smart. I mean, offensively, there's a lot of guys too. I mean, we have a really good and deep team. Like, there's a lot of guys that I can learn from, but I'd probably have to go with Beansy.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Like, he obviously came in as a skill player and putting up points, and he has that part of his game, but I think it's really underrated of how hard he plays. He's really good at a lot of little details, like making sure every time he gets the puck, it's getting north, it's getting behind their defenseman. He rarely turn pucks over. He's great on the forecheck. He's great in really all areas. He kills penalties. Like, that's what really impressed me, because I played with him at the development camp, and I just remember his skill and his passing ability. But now, kind of seeing him, it's like almost a bit of a different player because he can kind of do it all. And he has all those aspects. Like, he could go in, I think up to Vancouver and play in any situation, and he could do do a sufficient job for sure.
That's a great answer to what was supposed to be a fun question. Just put you on the spot a little bit there. This one will be a little bit easier. You've been rooming with Josh Bloom. Who's the messy one? Who's doing the cooking? What's that situation like for you?
Well, I live with Josh Bloom, Mark Gackholm, and Max Asson. So there's four of us. Yeah. We got the nickname the Frat House because Rathbone lived with us before, and it was 4 college guys.
Oh, man.
So we got the nickname the Frat House. So, but then Bloomer took Bonesy's spot. So I would say Sasson is the messiest for sure. Bloom and Gackholm probably take the majority of the cooking duties. I can't cook very much, but I make salads and I play the music while we cook. And then Gackholm's probably the cleanest. He likes to make sure everything's clean right away after we cook, and he's clean around the room and around the house as well.
That's awesome.
If you had to pick one skill that you could steal from any Canucks player from the NHL roster, what would it be? And I'm going to add a twist that you can't pick Hughes' skating because that's too obvious.
Okay. That's a good one. Maybe probably like someone like Hoglander or like Lafferty skating, because those guys can fly. Hoggy's really quick, and really agile, and Lafferty's really good, like north-south, can fly. So maybe one of their 2 skating abilities, because those guys can both scoot.
All right, right before we let you go, who's at the top of your Spotify Wrapped this year?
Oh, I had a crazy one. I think it was like I had like Morgan Wallen and like Drake and maybe like Noah Khan, and then like maybe like Lil Durk or like something like that. I'm all over the place with music. I I like kind of everything. I like to listen to a lot of different stuff, but those guys, I think it was a couple of rappers and a couple of country guys.
Beautiful. Yeah, versatile. That's like me. I had Taylor Swift at the top of mine, and then DMX was third on mine, so I got a lot of flack for that. But yeah, versatile guys. Aidan, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Thanks, Aidan.
Aidan McDonough, forward with the Abbotsford Canucks, friend of the show. Man, I'm sure he's not keeping track, but I got to try to figure out how many times he's been on the show, because his good friend Jack Rathbone held the record for most appearances on Canucks Convo by a non-media member, of course. Rathbone had been on the show like 6 times.
Really?
6 times. Dude, Jack, you text Jack Rathbone and you say, hey man, like, you want to come on the show? Yep, I'm game. Always game. Jack Rathbone came on, I think, twice during the pandemic, during COVID. And hey, speaking of Jack Rathbone, good guy, everybody knows that. When we held that Warzone game to raise money for Dave Nordum, a Canucks fan dealing with cancer, we raised money for him for his GoFundMe. Jack Rathbone, not only he donated $100, and the buy-in was $5 for that game. Everybody had to donate $5. Jack Rathbone donated $100. I don't even think he played in the tournament. I think he paid for 4 of his friends from Boston to play in the tournament, and we just had these 4 Boston guys in the tournament because Jack Rathbone paid for them to play, because I think he wanted to, but he wasn't able to. And then Gaudette was in it. And anyways, good guys out there.
That was so much fun. You might have to bring that back. I think my buddy Chris Nickel, shout out BC Conquer, won the thing. So that was a lot of fun.
It was so hard.
Great cause too.
Yeah, it was so hard to put together. I was putting it together. Like, I still lived with my mom at the time. Like, I was in my bedroom, like my childhood bedroom, playing on my 32-inch TV. Like, I was organizing all of this, and everybody in the house was under instructions not to use the internet because this game couldn't crash. Yeah. And I was wired up, and oh man, that was a stressful time.
The comms chat, I don't know, there was like a gym betting joke in there, and everyone went ballistic. It was like the funniest thing.
I actually had it muted because I was in a private party, and I think we live streamed our game. So because we had who's our teammate? We had Ryan Beach as our teammate at the time. It was
the ringer.
Faber and Ryan Beach was our team. No, it was we did trios. It was trios.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, again, thanks to Aidan McDonough for joining us. You ready, boys? It is time. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. We are going to break down the win-loss record on the trade market of Patrik Allvin, and we should say of Jim Rutherford and Patrik Allvin, because Frank Saravalli was on the show last week, told us the story of how the Filip Hronek trade went down, and obviously we know that Jim Rutherford was kind of at the forefront of that trade. He still gets final call in this. Grady's asking if we have a sponsor for this. Let's take a quick look. I don't think we do, Grady. I think we're actually good. We're going to get to Betway later. Actually, excuse me. No, we'll get to 4 wins after. Let's just get this done. Let's go to our win-loss record of the Allvin trades. Who came up with this idea? Was it Grady? Grady, did you come up with this idea?
Yes, it was me.
It was a fantastic idea. And Harmon and I were talking before, later in the year, maybe the summer, we can do the same with the Benning regime, right? We can do their free agent signings, both regimes free agent signings, and compare the win-loss record.
Lots of L's there.
Yeah. But anyways, let's get to it. Let's get to each trade that the Vancouver Canucks have made under Jim Rutherford and Patrik Allvin, and see where we line up in terms of a win-loss toss-up record. Okay, let's go. We're going to start with the first trade they ever made. Travis Hamonic to the Ottawa Senators for a 3rd-round pick. W's all around?
Yeah.
Don't need to discuss it?
Easy.
Okay, next one. Tyler Mott for a 4th. I have this as a W.
Just a toss-up. 4th was
Toss-up?
I mean, it's fine. You trade a pending UFA for a draft pick, but I don't think a 4th-round pick for Mott was anything crazy.
But it was the most they could get.
Sure, but anybody could make that trade. You or I could make that trade.
We went through 8 years of Jim Benning. Are you not at least entertaining the idea? Are you not at least entertaining the idea that Jim Benning sees that and says, well, we don't want to trade him for a 4th. We might try to re-sign this guy at the 11th hour and keep him.
But okay, you're comparing like the lowest possible bar.
The one in the city.
Everything. You can't
grade it on the Benning curve is what you're saying? Come on. Sure. The Benning curve. I like that.
There was talk that they were going to re-sign him to a way too high AAV. Yep. So I'm giving them a win there.
Yeah, I'm going with a W for having the
they could have just kept him and he would have walked for nothing, right?
Well, I should also say
they could have re-signed him.
Yeah.
For me,
and he struggled to sign the next few years, right? Like, he thought he was going to get more than he would. And I know the flat cap played a role in that, but you don't want to be overpaying for guys like Tyler Mott.
Yeah.
And I think, flashing back, I think at the time, like, he was playing really good hockey before he eventually was traded. And I think a lot of people got wrapped up in what he did in the bubble, which was great. But you got to remember what he was in that point, and that was a fourth liner.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a W if it was a third. And for me, I should also sort of clarify when we're saying like a tie or toss up, if something's a slight win, I'm not gonna just give the dub.
What? You
If
just
it's a
said
small-
it's a win.
But okay, when that trade happened, how many people were saying, "Oh, that's a great win for the Canucks"? It was like, okay, I'm glad they at least traded the player for what they could get.
Yeah.
But a fourth round pick at the time was fine. It wasn't, mind blowing.
Okay, we can't spend too much time on Mott for a fourth.
Lowercase W win.
Sure, fine, still a
Fine,
W.
yeah.
All right, Dickinson and a second.
Whoa.
What?
Travis Dermott trade.
Oh, what?
Oh yeah, the third for
Did I
Dermott.
miss that? Yes, third for Dermott. I put it as a toss-up.
Me too.
I had it as a toss-up as well.
I think it was a fine trade at the time. You're taking a chance on a guy you think you play in the top four. Obviously, Travis
unfortunate
Dermott
he
has
got
had a
hurt.
lot of
Yeah.
Yeah.
issues
And
with
underlying
concussions.
metrics too, like he profiled really
Yep.
well in Toronto. I remember defensive first guy that could play both sides. So it just didn't work out, and concussions and all that happened as well. So
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I missed that one. Anyways, Dickinson and a second round pick for Riley Stillman. I put this as a toss up.
L.
I went back and forth on this because they were cleaning up the previous regime's mess at this point, and that Dickinson contract was pretty tough to move. Now, the fact that they had to add a second for it, and Riley Stillman
Coming back.
Yeah, and he didn't turn out to be anything. So I have it in the L column, but
Fair
I
enough.
can be persuaded probably to
Well,
a
part
wash.
of it is also Dickinson was reportedly playing through an injury in that year
Mhm.
in his first season as a Canuck. I would have preferred that they just sort of wait it out and give him
Sure.
another shot.
Sure.
And I just don't think the team is good enough to justify giving up a second for 2.65.
Yep.
Of cap relief, and Dickinson has since bounced back and
Absolutely.
been the player
And
that
you
they originally
wonder
wanted him to
what
be.
he would look like playing under Rick Tocchet too.
Yeah, and so it's not like I'm not saying it's a huge loss or any
Yep,
means,
for
but
sure.
like it's.
I think it's somewhere in the middle of toss up and L, and I think you lean more toward L, even though I have it as a toss up. Okay, my first L here. DiPietro and Myrenberg for Jack Studnicka. I put this as an L.
yes.
Yeah, I'm in L too.
Okay. And
Yeah.
my reasoning for it was that when the trade was made, the justification was, well, Myrenberg's at least 5 years away. And then I'm like, okay, well, Boston's at the top of the standing, so why are they making that trade then? And it's because good teams, as I think the Canucks have learned, good teams continue to replenish their prospect cupboards. And I wonder if the regime itself regrets that based on what we've seen them do since. Because I think that's someone you'd like to have in your organization, Jonathan Myrenberg, because he's, he's a B, C level prospect, but there's legitimate signs, or there were at the time, that maybe you could develop this guy into something and he could be a late round pick for you that hits.
Yeah, I looked it up. He's playing in the SHL as a full-time player, 7 points in 22 games, averaging 17 minutes a night. It's not easy at 20 years old, earning the trust to be a full-time SHL defenseman, 6'2" right shot defenseman. Again, he's a BC prospect. It's nothing that you're worried about, but another right shot defense prospect.
Yeah.
Probably rather have that than Studnicka right now.
And this isn't revisionist history or anything. Like, he won't say it now, but Chris criticized the team at the time when they made that trade, because he liked Myrenberg as a prospect, and he said there's no reason to take this bullet out of the chamber down the road. Ethan Bear and Lane Peterson for a 2023 fifth rounder. W's all around.
Yep.
Okay.
Big dub.
The Horvat
not
trade.
big dub, but it was a win.
Our first one here. The Horvat trade. The Bo Horvat. I wonder where we all. I have it as a W.
I have it as a W.
W.
Okay. I thought there would be more drama with that. Okay. Do you want to talk about that one at all? Like, we all agree it's a W.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought you get essentially that pick ended up being 17th, and obviously subsequent Hronek trade, it's gone, but 17th overall pick in a stacked draft class, plus Ratu, who's I think he's last I checked, 13 points in 15 games.
Starting to play in the top
center.
6 for Abbotsford.
Yeah, and he's a center prospect. That's, even though you had to take Beauvillier's contract back, I think that's a pretty decent haul for a rental. even though after the fact, obviously, Isles extended Bo.
Will Lockwood and a 7th round pick for Vitaly Kravtsov. I have it as a W given the context of everything that happened before that, when it was rumored that New York was looking for a 3rd round pick.
Come on,
They waited it out.
It's a toss-up.
Toss up.
Come on,
Fine.
Okay,
Fine.
Where's
Okay.
Krasov right now?
Sure.
He's not with the team.
Sure. I
You
thought it was a
can't
fine
give-
bet.
I
Sure, it's
thought
a
it was a
toss-up.
fine bet,
It's a toss-up.
but you can't
Yeah.
give them a win
'Kay.
for.
They have his
No.
rights still, and Lockwood, he wasn't fitting here, but he showed some bottom
Sure.
6 snarl.
Sure.
I'm just not sure if it was ever going to.
I will agree with you guys, but I'm not changing mine. I'm keeping it for the sake of the exercise. I'm keeping it as a W in my final record.
I
But
would want you as my teacher. What the hell, I could get an A for anything.
well, you guys are probably right. It's closer to being a toss up than a W. But anyways, I'm not changing. I'm staying with. Well, I gotta keep it for the exercise. We're not changing. You can't change because then we're all gonna end up with the same thing. Anyways. Riley Stillman for Josh Bloom. W's all around. I think everybody was shocked when that trade was made.
Yep.
Okay. Luke Shen for a 3rd. Also a W.
Yep.
1st and a 2nd for Philip Hronek. A W.
Because this is going to be my hot take.
Yeah, here we go.
This is going to be, and I don't expect most people to be in my camp. I'm going to say that it's trending towards a win, but to me, it's a little bit too early to definitively declare it a W. And the reason is because I'm a little bit worried about Hronek's next contract. If he ends up at this pace and ends up, let's say, earning a $7.5 to $8 million cap hit on his next contract, because he's at a point where third in the league in points and all the huge minutes he's logging. The concern I have is in Vancouver, we've only ever seen him next to Quinn Hughes, who isn't just the best defenseman in the league right now. He's the best player, period, in the NHL. And so, man, that type of contract would be a little bit worrying for me. Look, at this point, we know Hronek's a good player, but if he's, let's say, hypothetically a true talent, let's say $6 million defenseman, but you're paying him a premium for that, then, I mean, we'll see. The point I'm trying to make is it's trending towards a win, but I think time still needs to play out, and seeing his next contract and seeing if he can drive his own pair. That's my thought process.
I think it's a win because similar to what you said about how you need to see what he looks like away from Quinn Hughes, and that's the question we get in almost every anyone else segment is, how do you quantify what Philip Hronek's doing, but he's playing with Quinn Hughes? Like, how do you quantify that? And I think the simple answer is you really can't until Ethan Bear or whoever else comes, that those two are split up. It's really hard to quantify what Philip Hronek looks like by himself. He looks fine as a power play 2 quarterback, right? Like, he looks fine doing that, but do you want to pay a power play 2 quarterback $8.5 million? No, you want to pay a guy who is successfully driving a top 4 pairing, that kind of money. And he's also going to be capable to step into the role that Quinn Hughes steps out of if he goes down with an injury. Like, that's who you want to pay. You want to pay your stars, as Corey Anderson said in the chat.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Harm, but the fact that they now have to pay him a premium is a good thing because it shows he's actually performing, exceeding expectations. I totally agree about Hughes potentially carrying him, but let's not forget, adding right shot, two-way defenseman is probably the hardest premium to find in the league.
Yep.
At the time, sure, it was a hefty price, but you can't argue with the performance this year. He's, done, I think, better than pretty much anyone's expected. And the fact that you have to pay him at some point, that to me tells me, okay, well, the trade was actually good here, and you want to be able to pay your stars when they deliver. But I do hear you. I think in an ideal world down the line, you would have Hronek anchoring his own pair at some point, and the option to load up Hughes and Hronek depending on the game situation. Because that way you have basically Hughes or Hronek coming over the boards almost every other shift, right? So it's a win.
Virtual Reality Channel, further to Grady's point, if you absolutely have to overpay on right-handed defensemen.
Fine, that's fine. But when most of your other players are also making, market value, when you look at Pettersson and a lot of the other contracts on the books, it shortens your window for actually contending for a cup, because it's impossible to win a Stanley Cup if most of your core players are paid market value. Look at how much harder it is for Colorado to flesh out the depth of their roster now that Nathan McKinnon makes 12 point whatever it is, rather than 6.3 in the cup winning year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's a great point.
That's fair. But the counter to that is, well, the cap is going up here, but that is going to raise everyone's salary, right? So
Yeah,
you
like,
also have the
to
OEL
Harmon's-
buyout,
yeah,
dead cap
that's
hit
gotta be
kicking in.
factored.
So
And to Harmon's point, Hronek and Elias Pettersson's contracts are both going to be signed with the cap having already gone up. So they're going to get full value. It's not one of these situations where you're signing and then the cap goes up, and maybe down the road, but Harmon has a very, very valid point when it comes to that. Okay, let's move on here. Lazar for a fourth. W.
yeah.
Okay. Pearson and a third for Casey DeSmith.
Well, you skipped over Wyatt Kalynuk for future considerations.
To the Rangers. Yeah, man. That's
Come on, how do you not remember?
Sorry,
that?
guy. I knew that trade happened. Do you guys want to
It's a
talk about
wash.
that?
No, it's a wash.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't even include it in my overall record. Okay, Pearson and a third for Casey DeSmith. Harmon, you start.
Swin.
Yeah, it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
Okay, thought that'd be more fun. Fifth for Sam Lafferty. W.
Easy.
W. Jack Rathbone, Carol Plastic for Mark Friedman and Ty Glover. W.
W.
Dub.
And finally, Anthony Beauvillier for a 5th round pick. A W.
W.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my overall record. Do you guys have yours tallied up?
I
Tally it up.
didn't.
I do, but I think I screwed the math up.
Go tally it up. Both of you tally it up. I'll kill us some time. Okay.
Okay.
My overall record is 13-1-1.
Yeah, you also gave them credit.
Yep.
For...
maybe it should be 13-1-2. They have had one L, and the one L that they had that we all agreed on, I would just like to point out, was pretty insignificant. It was Mike DiPietro and Jonathan Myrenberg for Jack Studnicka. That's the only L we all agreed on. The only one.
Yeah, but Grady and I agreed on the Dickinson one being an L2.
Sure. Also a rather insignificant trade.
I have 11, 2, and 5 for myself, but I'm not sure. Once Quad said his record there, and then I remembered that he was forgetting trades. I'm just thrown for a loop right here. Someone's gonna have to go back and fact check for me.
There's no way you had 5 toss-ups. You didn't. Like, I know that for sure. Your record is much closer to mine, Grady.
I have 2 L's, so we can work backwards.
Yeah, you had the Dickinson as an L and DiPietro.
Studnicka,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I don't know if I did the math right on this, but I believe
Come
I
on,
have
math guy.
First time he's ever said that.
10 wins, 2 losses, and 5 toss-ups.
5 toss. What are your toss-ups? Go through. Tell me your toss-ups.
Kalynuk for future consideration.
You toss up.
Are you gonna give them a win for that?
No, you don't have to give. We didn't even count it. Take it off. It doesn't count.
Okay, fine. But it's a trade. You said every trade.
Okay, fine. You really gonna toss up?
What do you want me to give them?
I guess
W
it's a
for that?
toss up. Sure, I guess it's a
Oh
toss
wow,
up. Harm.
future considerations, man.
It's so
That's a
insignificant.
huge win. But you said every trade.
Okay, fine.
You were the one yesterday that said
You're
every
right.
trade.
You're right.
So I had that as a toss up. I had the third for Dermott as a toss up. I had Mott for the fourth.
Oh yeah, I guess my record would be 13-1-2 because I also had Dermott as a toss up. I just forgot to write it down.
I had Lockwood and a 7th for Kravtsov.
I had that as a W.
Exactly. Like, how is that a W?
It was at the time when the trade was made.
Yeah,
That was
process-wise, I
universally
liked it.
praised.
But you can't. Yeah, but you can't give them a W.
And
People
for the
are-
result.
yeah.
Let's be clear here. There is some trades here that like the story is still being written.
Yep.
And then the Hronek one, it's trending towards a W, but for me, just to see how the contract plays out,
Oh god. Okay.
it's
You're right. Yeah, you had your reasons. I won't disparage you too
you have
much.
to look beyond this season. That's my only point. And again, I know it's a hot take. I don't expect most people to agree with me, but
Mhm.
in as much as I hate to talk about contracts and cap and fitting everything under so that you're actually a contender, like
Mhm.
those things
They matter. They do matter. You're right. Cody Severson in the chat calling Stillman for Bloom an L. How is that an L, Cody? That's a
He's
W.
just trolling.
We all had that.
You
as a
moved
W.
off what 1.5 million in cap?
Yeah.
That's a win alone.
Yeah. The fact they didn't have to give anything up to get rid of Riley Stillman.
Good point though by Cody in the Hamonic trade. The third they got back was to draft DP to Elias Pettersson.
Yep, exactly. Okay. I think we're all good here. I think we figured it out. Great job, boys. That segment was great. We're gonna do it again with the Benning regime at some point. We'll do it some point, maybe the bye week that the Canucks have. I think January they have their bye week, so not that far away. We'll do the Benning regime. Save your records, boys. Remember to save them. We'll compare them with the Benning regime, and then we'll do free agent signings somewhere down the line. But for now, it's time for our Light the Lamp contest, brought to you by our friends over at 4 Winds Brewing. Where is it here? There it is. Vancouver is playing Vegas tonight, and we want to know who's going to score the first goal for Vancouver. If you nail it, you could win a $25 gift card to the 4 Winds Tap Room, located at 72nd and River Road in Delta. Enter by following us on social media. Keep an eye out for today's show clip and comment who you think will light the lamp and score the first goal tonight. Winners will be contacted directly. Check us out at Canucks Army or at Canucks Convo on Twitter, at CanucksArmy.com on Instagram, and Canucks Army on Facebook. And make sure you ask about 4 Winds Light Lager at your local liquor store, or have some delivered to your front door through the online shop at 4windsbrewing.ca. Predictions tonight, Harmon. Who scores the first goal?
Well, I'm not very good at these predictions.
Nils Höglander.
I'll go Quinn Hughes. Big game, battle for the top of the Pacific. Quinn's going to step up.
Grady.
Höglander.
Nice. I like it. Okay. Go check out our friends over at 4 Winds Brewing. All right, right before we close out, time for the Betway bet of the day, brought to you by our friends over at Betway. Keeping it simple tonight, folks. Keeping it simple. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Quinn Hughes to
Just
register.
going back to the well.
Over 2.5 total shots on goal tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. Minus 138 odds means a $10 bet will return you $17.27 over on Betway. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Grady, you pointed out on Twitter today that the Canucks are the favorite in this game. And if I read your tweet correctly, this is the first time in the history of the Vegas Golden Knights that the Canucks are the favorite to beat them.
Vegas is 7-0-2 in their existence at Rogers Arena, which means the Canucks have never actually won in regulation on home ice against Vegas. And yes, they are the favorite for the first time tonight in this matchup on home ice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see if they get it done, and we'll be back to talk about it tomorrow. You want to close out the show? Your call.
No.
Okay. For my co-host Harmon Dial, my name is Dave Guadrelli, and our technical producer, Grady Sass, I should have said. Our thanks again to Aidan McDonough for joining us on today's episode. Now I can say it. My name is Dave Guadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.